Everyone, myself Vaibhav. In today's session of Visual JForex, we will be looking at the Visual JForex component named if else. This is a block using which we can define the conditions, we can set the conditions for the execution of the trade, and this is an basic requirement whenever you are building any new algorithm, whenever you are designing the system to trade. Then along with the indicator can be any of your choice, but you can't do anything if you are not well familiar with the block named if else. There is an logical component here, you will find this, and those who are well familiar with the coding might be knowing that without if else statement we can't complete the code. And for our algorithm also on this platform, this is going to do the same function. You can see that we have the description, and it is going to be used to set the conditional, and whenever the conditions are met, if it is true, then the trade will happen. If the conditions are not met, then nothing will happen. So let us go to the Visual JForex board on which we can find this block under the logical classification. Here it is, if else. Now to initialize the system, you can use any of the three. You might be well familiar by now. Coming to its functionality, we have to set the conditions. The first variable and the second variable are going to be used to set the conditions, and then on the lower side we have these outflows, and whenever we see that certain conditions are met, the trade will happen. For example, let us take any of the indicator, Bill Williams indicator, one of the indicator we will take here. Let us take two blocks, and I will explain to you how we can do the comparison. We will use these blocks earlier to initialize, to make sure that there are valid values, and then we will come to the if else block. So we have now two indicator blocks. We will change their conditions to make sure there is difference. Even if we simply change the look back period, we can do the comparison, as the AC values will be for two different period of time, though the other input variables are the same. Now here the current AC value and the AC value, two candlesticks of 10 minutes each. So we are going back in time, and we are retrieving these values. Now if you want to do the comparison, suppose if you want to see if the current positive value is greater than or less than the prior AC value, all you have to do is take these output values in this block and put it here, and you have three options provided here. If the first input is less than the second input, then the conditions will be fulfilled, and we will be in position to go for the next trade. And if the conditions are not really fulfilled, then nothing will happen. Then you get the second option here, the first input greater than the second input, and our first input is positive 11, second is positive 12. So we will be doing the comparison, and if the second conditions are also met, then the trade will execute, or else nothing will happen. And then coming to the third option, third is equals. If these both the values are equal, then also we can set the conditions, and along with the trade we can also set certain conditions, like we can allow for further checking of other conditions also. Suppose if you want to, for example, take a cluster of indicators, and you are also working with other kind of indicators, and you want to make sure that after first condition first condition is fulfilled, the second condition should be checked. In such a circumstance, all you have to do is take multiple if else blocks, if else statements, and then you can design and define your trade conditions. So here we have this, and we will take, for example, another if block. It is listed under the logical components, and here it is. Now we want the first condition to be that positive 11 is greater than the positive 12, that is the current positive value of the AC is greater than the prior positive value, that is the value 2 periods back. Then we want the other condition to be checked, so we want this to be greater. So what will happen here is that only if this condition is met, only then the flow will move forward, other conditions will be checked. If this condition is not fulfilled, then nothing will happen, it will terminate here. Now we can set other conditions. Here also we will simply change the loopback period. For simplicity, you can define these two indicator blocks in different manner also. To keep things simple, I am only using these shift values different and then doing the comparison. Now we want to define the second condition here, and suppose, for example, we want the current negative value to be less than the prior negative value. So here you can do the comparison, and all you have to do is take any other if block, or if this is the last condition and you want the trade to execute, you can simply take the open order execution block also. Now we want the negative value to be less than the prior negative value. So this way we can define multiple conditions for the trade execution, and in this manner we can build simplest of the simplest or most complex of the complex algorithms, and all we have to do is design the concept, make sure that this is logically valid, and then you can utilize these if else statements to set the conditions, and only if certain conditions are fulfilled the trade will happen. So that's it from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query, you can write it to me in the feedback, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Do subscribe to the Dukascopy webinar channel to stay updated on the market developments. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.